"Sir, you're trespassing, and I'm placing you under citizen's arrest." The words echoed across my ranch, coming from a man standing smack in the shadow of my boots, on my land, with a kind of swagger that would have been hilarious if it wasn't so downright delusional. I didn't budge, didn't crack a smile, just stared past him toward the barn, where two of my deputies stepped into the dawn, their badges catching the rising sun like it was throwing a warning flare. The idiot, puffed up in his dollar store authority vest, didn't catch the sound of the barn door creaking behind him, didn't sense that actual law was already on its way. His reckoning had arrived, and he was too busy cosplaying as a vigilante to realize it. This whole mess kicked off a week earlier, right before daybreak, when the stillness of my land was broken by the crunch of tires on gravel. I was at the north fence, fixing a post that my mare had kicked loose. The air was crisp, the world still waking up. I had just braced the rail back into place when a sleek gray SUV came easing up the dirt path, like it had a deed to the place. City folks, I thought. They see a gate and think it's a picnic invite. Out stepped the first wave of nonsense. Marlene Whitaker, dragging two yappy designer dogs by their leashes. Her hair looked sculpted for a red carpet, not a dirt road. She adjusted her giant sunglasses and started scanning my ranch like she was a bidder at a cattle auction. Then the passenger door clicked open, and out strolled the real problem. Vernon Tate, clipboard in one hand, mirrored aviators flashing, and a badge so shiny it screamed, "Clearance bin bravado." He straightened up like he'd been rehearsing the moment in front of his bathroom mirror. My gut said it all. This clown's been watching too many cop shows and thinks trespassing laws are optional. I leaned on my post-hole digger, wiped the sweat from my brow, and watched them stroll through my open gate like it was an invitation. Marlene headed straight for me, phone already recording. Vernon glanced down at his clipboard and started scribbling nonsense. "Morning," I said, calm and even. "Something I can help you with?" Marlene didn't even blink. Vernon spoke. "Sir, we're here on official community business. We've received reports of non-compliant fencing and structures that violate Section 5D of the Rural Aesthetic Code. We're here to perform a full inspection." His voice was so practiced I could almost hear the imaginary applause in his head. Then Marlene piped in. "Your property falls under our expanded HOA jurisdiction. It impacts the visual corridor of our community." I let a few seconds pass, let their self-importance fill the air. "There's no HOA out here," I said, flat and firm. "This land's been private since my great-granddaddy staked it. You're about 12 miles off your turf." Marlene stiffened like I'd insulted her ancestry. "Our updated charter includes rural buffer zones," she snapped. "Your land affects our neighborhood's integrity." I blinked. "Visual corridor?" Vernon stepped up, pen in hand like it was Excalibur. "Sir, you're in violation of fence uniformity, non-neutral barn paint, and improper livestock containment. I'm issuing a compliance notice and scheduling a hearing." He actually tore off a form, complete with a knockoff HOA crest and some Latin nonsense. I glanced at it. Had to admit the gall was impressive. The sanity, not so much. "You do know we've got a sheriff in this county," I said. "You might want to run your little hearing idea by him." Marlene scoffed. "We don't need local law. This is civil enforcement." Vernon nodded. "I'll need your name." I gave them a slow, deliberate smile. "You're standing on Sheriff Caleb Thornton's ranch," I said. "That'd be me." Vernon's pen froze midair. Marlene's phone dipped just a hair. The gears in their heads finally started grinding. "That doesn't exempt you from regulation," Vernon managed. I crossed my arms. "What it does is turn this into a legal matter. You're trespassing, impersonating authority, issuing fake citations, and filming private property without consent. That's 4 charges. Want to keep going?" Marlene waved her hand like she was shooing away an inconvenience. "There's no need for drama. We're just enforcing standards." I stepped in closer. "And you're breaking the law. I've asked you to leave. That's what you'll answer for." In court. They backed off, but not before Vernon vowed he'd return with backup. Marlene yanked her dogs, spun around, and stormed to the SUV, leaving a cloud of dust behind them as they sped off. I stood there for a beat, chewing on the sheer absurdity of it all, and texted my deputy Nate, who had a spread just down the way. "HOA clowns trying to play sheriff again. Play cop. Keep eyes open." Nate's reply came back fast. "They hit my place last week. Just say the word. I'll help shut him down. But I hadn't reported anything yet. I wanted them to think they'd spooked me. Let them get cocky. I knew if I gave them just enough rope, they'd hang themselves. Sure enough, next day, they came back bolder, this time with 2 fresh recruits in matching vests, marching across my property like they were leading a 4th of July parade. Vernon jabbed a finger toward my barn, barking something about code enforcement, and that's when he went for the citizen's arrest routine. He never saw Nate or Deputy Leah Brooks step out from the barn, hands resting near their holsters, badges catching the morning light like a warning flare. Vernon turned, locked eyes with them, and all that swagger vanished in a puff of fear. I tilted my head. "You were saying something about trespassing?" Marlene's voice cracked, high and panicked. "You can't do this. You don't know the rules." Nate gave a dry chuckle. "Ma'am, you're the one who doesn't know where you are." The air felt electric, like the whole standoff was wired, their fake authority crumbling under the weight of real law. "I'm Caleb Thornton, sheriff of this county, and my ranch? It's more than just dirt and fence posts. It's a legacy, built by generations who earned every inch of it." Marlene and Vernon thought they could storm in here with clipboards and cheap badges. But what they walked into was a snare they didn't have the sense to recognize. The sun climbed higher, heat pressing down, but the confrontation was far from over. I knew they'd be back, and when they came, I'd be waiting, with the law on my side, the land beneath my boots, and a fed-up community behind me. Next morning came in quiet, but I didn't buy it. Peace, I've learned, is just the breath before the storm. And Marlene's little HOA brigade, not the type to back away quietly. At exactly 8:45 a.m., dust rose again. This time 2 SUVs rolled in, polished clean, gleaming like they thought they owned the road. Out stepped Marlene, dressed more for a boardroom than a ranch. Vernon, still in his wannabe enforcement vest, and 2 new faces, one stringy guy clutching a camcorder and another woman holding a clipboard thick enough to stop a bullet. They strutted through my gate, straight past the new sign I'd nailed up the night before. Private property, sheriff's land. No trespassing. Vernon marched ahead, pointing again at my barn, muttering about emergency audits. Marlene's voice rang out, loud, over-rehearsed. "Under Section 6C of the Community Visual Preservation Act, this property is under critical review for multiple violations." Then Clipboard Lady stepped up, announcing herself Sylvia Grant, Compliance Director. "You failed to correct fencing issues, livestock containment, and unauthorized paint tones." I stood on my porch, coffee forgotten and cold. "You're on private land again," I said. "That sign?" "Not a decoration." Vernon smirked. "This is an authorized inspection. You refused cooperation last time." "Sylvia?" She adjusted her glasses like it gave her more authority. "Temporary HOA oversight, District 7. It was garbage, a make-believe title for a made-up jurisdiction. They headed for the barn, Vernon signaling camcorder guy to film. I stepped forward, voice like steel. "Cross that line, Vernon, and you're breaking county law, not some imaginary HOA rulebook." He spun back defiant. "You don't scare me, Thornton. Law is law." Before I could respond, the barn door moaned open again. Out stepped Nate and Leah, boots crunching, eyes sharp. Vernon froze. The camcorder guy's hand dipped. Sylvia's pin fell to the dirt. Marlene gasped. Her dogs lost their minds. Nate's voice was calm, but cut like a blade. "Didn't expect y'all back this soon." Marlene stammered. We're within our rights to inspect," I cut in. "No, you're not. You're trespassing, impersonating officials, filming without consent. We've got you recorded, from your camera, from mine, and from the department's." Leah stepped forward, hand resting on her radio. "Stay where you are. Keep your hands visible." Vernon's swagger collapsed. Zip ties hung limp from his vest. Marlene's pitch climbed. "This is a misunderstanding. Vernon said this was legal." Sylvia frantically flipped through her clipboard, muttering something about jurisdictional discrepancies. The camcorder guy, Evan, raised his hands. "Hey, I'm just a freelancer. Found the gig online." Then Vernon made his fatal play. "Sheriff or not, I'm detaining you for obstructing community enforcement." He lunged, zip ties in hand. But Leia was faster. She had him face down in the gravel before the words even landed. The cuffs clicked tight. Nate stepped on Vernon's precious zip ties, grinding them into the dirt. "Nice try," he said with a smirk. Marlene shrieked, stumbling backward toward the SUV. "It's not mine. It's HOA property," Marlene stammered. Nate checked the plates. "Expired. 6 months past due. This one's getting towed." Sylvia, looking ghostly, quickly distanced herself, insisting she'd been misinformed about the boundaries of the compliance zone. Evan raised both hands, sheepish. "I didn't realize the barn was a sheriff's storage facility. Thought it was just a shed." I crouched beside Vernon, his face grinding into the dirt. "You walked into a marked law enforcement site, filmed it, then tried to restrain me. That's a felony list longer than your phony HOA bylaws." Marlene's eyes darted, her empire crumbling right in front of her. I just brought the coffee. Vernon planned all of this." I stood up slow, voice colder than steel. "You helped coordinate trespassing. You backed an impersonator. That makes you an accessory." Just then, another pickup rolled up. Neighbor Leia Hayes leaned out, grinning, phone in hand. "Sheriff, this circus is live. It's online, already going viral." Evan winced. It auto-uploaded. I didn't realize the setting was public. The video, the one catching Vernon's laughable arrest attempt and Marlene's meltdown, was spreading like wildfire. I gave Nate a nod. "Start collecting statements. Tow the vehicles. Notify the DA Vernon was loaded into a cruiser. Marlene and Sylvia were separated for questioning. Evan's camera logged as evidence." The ranch settled again, but I knew the storm wasn't over. This wasn't just nosy neighbors stepping out of line. It was a rogue HOA pretending to have dominion over land they had no legal claim to. And I was going to make sure they paid for it. By midday, the internet had exploded. The clip of Vernon's zip tie stunt, now branded Zip Tie Sheriff, hit over 200,000 views. Local forums were flooded with memes. Marlene's screech got chopped into a techno remix. Barry's shiny badge, a running punchline. Were HOAs reaching too far into private life? Could urban rules really be forced onto rural land? Why HOA forum in the state? Evan, he wasn't charged, but his Craigslist ad became meme fuel for weeks. Meanwhile, the DA launched a fraud case into the HOA's phony rural authority scheme. Turns out they'd tried the same act on at least 6 other ranches, issuing fake violations like it was a business model. I replaced my warning sign with something a little more permanent, a carved oak slab that read, "Thornton Ranch, Sheriff's Land. Cross at your peril." Leia swung by later, snorted when she saw it. "Subtle," she said, laughing. That weekend, I hosted a barbecue, ranchers, deputies, a cooler full of beer, and ribs slow cooking under lantern light. Talk circled back to Vernon's little stunt. Laughter echoed under the stars. A young deputy asked, "What if he'd made a run for it?" I smirked. "We've got 200 acres and a mule that hates fast movers." The night faded to peace, crickets chirping, air still, my land secure again. Later, a news crew showed up, asked if I was surprised by any of it. "No," I said, scuffed boots on the porch rail, badge catching no light. "People fake power until they meet the real thing. Law ain't a costume, it's responsibility." They aired the clip. Debate stirred again. But I didn't care. This land is mine, my rules, my quiet, earned, not gifted, and guarded by those who know the difference between wearing a badge and being one.